this book kind of has a I don't want to say anarchist bent to it, but maybe kind of a libertarian, like, kind of a libertarian bent to it, anarchist light. It's one of those things where I could imagine Silence or any Threnodite saying that the scariest 9 words to hear would be, "I'm from the forts and I'm here to help." I'd apologize to Ronald Reagan for butchering that quote, but also fuck him, so I don't care.
Okay. Should I be laughing?
Well, no, it's... Oh, fuck.
I love these cold opens.
Hello and welcome to Cosmere Casual, your casual reader's guide for the Cosmere Curious. I'm your co-host and bad joke enthusiast, apparently, Nick Gorman.
And I'm your co-host, AJ Gorman.
So today we're doing a pre-read episode for the short story Shadows for Silence in the Forests of Hell.
Which is kind of a long name.
It is. Well, I mean, that's kind of like, that's kind of the thing with...
It's on brand for the
Threnodites.
story. Yeah.
Well, there aren't... This one doesn't have as many as, certain other stories that have Threnodites in it.
Okay, let's just for clarity's sake, I want to say right now, Silence is the name of the main character.
Yes.
Because it is very confusing. And it is weird to think about. It makes you think about the title of the story a little bit differently.
Shadows for Silence in the Forests of Hell. And hell is the setting of this book. But we'll talk about the setting in a minute. I want to talk a little bit about... So I guess the beats of what we're going to go over this episode. I want to talk about publication because it's available in a few different short story collections. I want to talk about the premise. So, like, what's the book even about, really? I want to go through, some trigger warnings because this is a little bit more, horror themed, and there's some tough stuff in there. And then, spoiler free review and just, talk about the book.
And Nick gets to control this episode because
this time did my homework. I did my preparations. You're welcome, readers.
And I did not.
It's been... you could just say, hey, it's been a rough few weeks.
I was the one who decided that we should do this story next, and
it's true.
I did not do my homework for the story that I wanted to read.
Have you reread it again recently?
No.
Huh.
No.
So I reread. It like takes about.
I'm
an
excited
hour.
to. I will before the next episode.
Okay, I'm just saying, like it's not that long of a read. My Kindle estimates it's going to take about 46 minutes. Takes a lot longer than that when you're reading it on an airplane with a squirmy toddler. But
good to know. That should be applicable to half of our audience.
Listen. So, Shadows for Silence in the Forests of Hell was originally published in 2013 in the Dangerous Women anthology by George R.R. Martin and Gardner Dozois.
And I thought that we were getting to the point in the Cosmere where I thought I remember stuff coming out, but 2013, I don't think I had started reading the Cosmere yet.
No. Well, and
that's when we started dating, and I don't think I started the Cosmere until after we started dating.
That's fair. And I don't. Let me. What am I trying to say here? The other place this one, appears in is in the Arcanum Unbounded collection, but that includes a post, a preface from the perspective of Chris, the in-universe, Cosmere scholar, and as well as a postscript by Brandon, like out of character. And I really like the postscript with this one because it talks about how he even decided to write this book. And it talks about his relationship with George R.R. Martin and the late Gardner Dozois. And like how they were huge influences on him and things like that. Which I thought was really, I thought that was really interesting because, if you just look at the fandoms, right, like most, especially in, internet communities, which can, can be a little bit negative. Most, a lot of people are really quick to poo-poo or, shout down on George R.R. Martin because how long he takes on his new books. And that is so contrary to Brando Sando, right?
Brando Sando fans do not get the same experience from Brando as George R. R. Martin fans.
Right. But, from the authorial perspective, like, Brando Sando, like, he holds, George R. R. Martin in such high esteem, especially as an editor, which is, how, their professional relationship with this book. So I don't know. I thought that was a nice, little, thing meta to look at.
Well, the thing that I remember, because it's been a while since I've read all those prefaces and postscripts, is the thing that sticks out in my brain is that this original anthology was supposed to be about
dangerous women,
femme fatales, which not really femme fatales. That's the original name for the anthology was femme fatales, but then they changed it because that's also not a great connotation. But anyways, but Brandon was very specifically concerned that it was all going to be like young women.
The evil seductress or whatever, right?
Right. And Brandon very specifically wrote this centered around a mother, an older woman who...
maybe approaching middle ages, right?
Right.
Yeah, like she's got a teenage daughter.
But she's not a young chick,
Yes. That segues nicely into what's the premise of this book? And, so
it's a ghost story.
Yeah. Without going into spoilers, it's ghost stories, right? But the real monsters are the government.
I do not remember that connotation to the story whatsoever.
I didn't remember it from my first read through, but when I was rereading it this time, I'm just like, man, it's like every few pages, like really, the bad guys are the there are monsters in forms of the shades, ghosts, but like there's the real bad guys are all associated with the government somehow, tax collectors or whatever. And like every few lines, there's, something that there's some dig on the civilization, right? So if we go into the weeds on what the premise is, it's probably going to be longer than the story itself. But basically, it's set on like a frontier kind of deal. And the name of the frontier is a giant forest called Hell, and it's about as welcoming as that, right? There's lots of...
Sometimes Brandon likes to finesse some of his hints, and sometimes he just likes to hit you over the head with his descriptions.
Yeah, subtle like a sledgehammer to the face. So Silence Montaigne and her daughters run a tavern in a safe haven in the forest of Hell, and she provides a safe refuge from the angry shades outside. Times are tough. It's a hard living out on the frontier, and she secretly works as a bounty hunter to make the ends meet. This is a story about one of those bounty hunts.
I can't believe you just did that.
Did what?
You gave away one of the secrets of the story.
That's literally... It's got multiple chapters in it. Oh my god. It's literally part of the premise of the book.
Yeah, but you don't find that out at the beginning.
Yes, you do. You literally do.
I remember it being a shock to find out that she was a bounty hunter.
No, it's like the very first scene. There's I guess a frame narrative set up before that, but like it's
okay,
literally the very first thing.
All right, you just reread the story.
I was about to say, I'm like, no,
right.
That's not a
spoiler. All right, fine.
I'm just fine. Like, there's nothing else to talk about if you don't include that. So yeah, no.
So it is a ghost story, and I'm not one for ghost stories. However, I can make it through this.
Well, and it's a nice short story.
And it's a nice short story. But it is a somewhat difficult book, and for some people it will be a difficult book. Well,
I was about to say, because, and going into like what the trigger warnings would be for this book, there's a lot of Brandon's books, they're set in like dark-ish fantasy type stuff. So there's, lots of, even in this one, there's discussions of, violence and rape and things. But like really with this one, it digs into child abuse a fair bit, and like, and its impact on people even as they become adults. I definitely didn't pick up on that too much in my first read through, or at least I don't remember picking up in my first read through. But reading through this again, especially as a parent, like I was way more intensely affected by that. It's a difficult issue to portray, but like I think Sanderson handles it pretty respectfully. And compared to some of Sanderson's like earliest works, you can tell he's had more experience writing about complex issues related to mental health. I don't know if he had a consultant on this one or not, but you can tell that it's a difficult topic handled respectfully.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've got some, lines that I think really encapsulate that. But that's for the next episode, our spoiler review. Spoiler-free review. So the first time I read this book, I was already like knee deep into the Cosmere and reading, I was going through Arcanum Unbounded because it was like, all right, just trying to get, as much context as I can get my hands on. And in that read through, I enjoyed it, but it really didn't leave an impression. Is that about, your experience with it?
Yeah, because like even now I'm like, I can remember some points, some scenes of the book very well, and I can't tell you what the end is.
I was about to say, because the ending is the part that really stuck out for me.
Did not stick out for me. The beginning of the books is my favorite part.
Fair enough. And I mean, having just reread this I guess a week ago at this point, I noticed a lot more. Like Brand, he does a really good job portraying complex feelings and relationships, which is really challenging in such a short story. Because like normally we're used to him like building on those over thousands of pages, and this, like I said,
he can do it.
About an hour.
He can do it.
Yeah.
I would also say that he's kind of in his element because I do remember there's a lot of kind of interior monologue.
There's a bit.
Which that's what Brandon likes.
Fair. Also, I mean, there's pretty good world building here. Like, it's not a fully fleshed out world in terms of, it's not like you've got competing nation states or whatever. You're basically dealing with a, peasant innkeeper, right? But the fantastical elements are well done and they're laid out really clearly.
And this was originally for an audience that was not Cosmere focused.
Exactly.
So you can definitely jump into this without really knowing anything. It's probably not a terrible starting point for some people.
Well, I think it's
just to get a sense of Brandon's style.
Yeah, and if you're Sanderson curious, I think it would be a good, because you get a good feel for his writing style here. But it's not if you're trying, like, it doesn't give you any sort of a feel for the larger Cosmere, really. Like there's no other world hoppers that I know of, none that I noticed when I was looking out for him this time.
I will say though that the planet is Threnodite and
Threnody, yeah.
Threnody. The Threnodites have done quite a diaspora from the planets in the larger Cosmere.
Listen, yeah. We'll get to that, and
but this is just to say that this is the only Threnodite focused work that is published at this point.
It's the only one set on Threnody so far, but these other ones that are focused on Threnodites.
That's true.
That's I'm like, well, hold on.
Wait, is that true?
Yeah, the Sunlit Man.
Okay, all right. Well, I mean, the main character for Sunlit Man is not a Threnodite, but
listen.
Yes.
All right. But yeah, no. I mean, I guess if you're looking for a book with like big majestic scenes and grandiose acts of power and things done on a huge scale, gods battling, you kind of got to look elsewhere.
That would be Stormlight.
Yeah, or Mistborn, right?
Mm-hmm.
This book really focuses on Silence, her family, her daughters, and her little slice of the world, and the tone is pretty grounded and honestly kind of bleak. Yeah. So
he does write non-bleak stuff.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking that we've been doing Mistborn, Era 1, and other stuff that is bleak. And just so you know, that we'll be doing some reviews of books that are not bleak soon.
I don't know. I feel like our next book should be The Way of Kings, and then after that we could do Tress.
Okay.
And I think Tress would be much more upbeat.
Yeah, and I think you and I just both thought the same book. So is it just the one book that's not so bleak?
I mean, maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
But I feel like this one, as a Brando Sando work, is noteworthy because it is a short story, right?
And he doesn't do very many of those.
He really mostly does epic fantasies. And I don't know. I like short stories. I like having a bite-sized short story, right? Because if it's if it doesn't quite hit you right, you didn't invest that much in it. But ones that are still done well do hit a lot of the same way, and it's still really satisfying. So to me, Shadows for Silence is a pretty good short story. I'm not it's I like Silence as a protagonist. And like I said, I like the ending, and how it fits together. Yeah. I guess one other interesting thing I wanted to say in a spoiler-free review, like you mentioned, we've got a lot of stories out there with like young adults as fantasy protagonists. There's a lot of coming-of-age stories, like it's a whole genre, but we don't see too many mothers of young adults as fantasy protagonists, at least not in the stories I read. So that, it was nice.
It was very nice.
Yeah.
Looking forward to rereading it.
Yeah.
On a similar note, do you remember reading any of the other stories in the anthology?
Yes.
Okay, because nothing comes to mind. I feel like I did read the anthology.
I was about to say, because there was, that's in Arcanum Unbounded or Dangerous Women?
No, Dangerous Women.
I don't think I picked that one up.
We should.
Yeah, I probably should. I was about to say, obviously I've read some George R. R. Martin, but the name Gardner Dozois didn't ring any bells for me. But then
doesn't ring bells for me, but that's because I'm uneducated.
Well, I was about to say, like, because when I looked him up on Wikipedia and his bibliography, I was like, oh, there are like a lot of his books were ones that lined my parents' basement when I was in high school. So like, there's and I have read some of the things that he edited. I don't know.
He's an editor, not an author.
That's what he's famous for. He's both.
Okay.
Yeah. Anywho, back to the Cosmere, back to Shadows for Silence. If you're trying to figure out where to read this, where this fits in with the Cosmere, right? It's a perfectly fine entry point to the Cosmere. I think we mentioned that before.
And maybe read it through the Arcanum Unbounded. And if you're not...
Yeah, I was about to say, because there's, Arcanum Unbounded is challenging if you're trying to break into the Cosmere, just because there are lots of other stories in there that do have spoilers for other fully published works, right? So
okay.
I was actually going to say the opposite.
Oh.
I would say.
So just get the Dangerous Woman.
Yeah, or, it's also available as its own ebook, or check it out from the library, whatever. Yeah, but there's... in terms of, like I said, I didn't notice any world hoppers, except there are mentions of them in the preface in Arcanum Unbounded. But yeah, so...
That's kind of it, isn't it?
I was about to say, this would be a good book to read if the setting, Threnody, comes up in Secret History and especially in The Sunlit Man, as well as like a few Easter eggs in Stormlight Archive and stuff, but like the events of this book aren't referenced anywhere else, at least not where we are in October 2024. So it's it's pretty good. It's mostly self-contained, is what I'm trying to say, but
it does provide some good context.
Yeah. So I think that's really all I want to talk about in terms of that the where it fits in the Cosmere, spoiler for your review. Anything else on your mental notes?
No, I was just, when I think of this short story, I do think of the Dangerous Woman, and kind of, it was very, I don't always care about what events lead up to the publishing of the story. I just mostly care about the story itself, but this one did have an interesting background and philosophy behind it. So
yeah. So thanks for podcasting with me, dear, and thank you, listener, for listening to our podcast. Please send any comments, questions, feedback of the non-audio kind to our email address at cosmerecasual@gmail.com.
You could also mention it to your friends.
Oh yeah, spread the word. We don't even, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, spread the word.
Yeah,
that would be awesome. Thank you.
Our intro and outro music is licensed through Tribe of Noise. The song is Odyssey, and the artist is Ketsa.
And until next time, keep your wits about you.